These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
In this case, it's not just Minnesota sports. It's scoops. It's speculation. Some of it reckless. Some of it founded in exactly where it should be, which is fact. And that is why it's bonus scoop time. It's Judd, it's Declan, but most importantly, it's Darren Doogie Wolfson, Channel 5 Eyewitness News, Scoop Podcast as well. And let's get right to it, Doogs. A lot of stuff that we have been talking about for quite some time now is coming to a head. And I guess none of it's very surprising, but it's all interesting. Let's start with Danielle Hunter. So we had talked about, and he has not been at OTAs. So the Pelissero report that I think came out yesterday was zero surprise. He's not going to attend the mandatory minicamp. But what can you tell us about a situation that I think is one of the first really intriguing ones? Because if Danielle Hunter is traded or is not back with this team, unlike several of the other veterans who have been purged from the roster, I think this one is actually a big hit to what the Vikings plan on doing in 2023.
I agree, Judd. They have been thinking for a while here, Danielle Hunter is going to be in purple in 2023. By the way, him missing today, tomorrow, the mandatory minicamp, the fine is below $50,000. For Danielle Hunter, that is nothing. Let's say the Vikings and Danielle come to a happy medium on a new contract in the coming weeks or in the next, 6 to 8 weeks, coming months. The Vikings can waive that fine, right? So that's why there's zero surprise that Danielle is not going to be at TCO Performance Center the next couple days. Judd, I did see that Jeremy Fowler piggybacked on what we've discussed going back weeks, that he hears what I've heard, that the Vikings absolutely want Danielle here. But if the two sides can't come to this happy medium on this raise, and Judd, my understanding is the Vikings are willing to pay him a significant amount of money. I wish I knew the exact amount, but they clearly are willing to give him a bump from this base salary of $5 and change for 2023. They're willing to bump that up significantly, right? But clearly the talks haven't gone well to this point. That's why this trade chatter has begun. But I'm with you, because to me, it is a subtle rebuild. If they want to call it competitive rebuild, however they want to frame it. But to me, it's absolutely a rebuild. Emphasis on that word, right? And so if you jettison Danielle, to me, in many ways, Judd, you are hitting the reset button, something I said that the Wolves haven't been willing to do. But that would be that one significant move where you're like, okay, we get it. All your chips in on 2024, 2025. You still need to figure out the quarterback position, but that's the idea, right? Compete at a high level, 24 and 25. See what you can do here in 23. Danielle helps you in 24, and I do believe he helps you in 25. I think the Vikings feel like he helps them for the next few years. We can debate 26. And he's at that point, 32, maybe 33 years old.
Right.
But for the next 3 years, he absolutely can help them. I just know, Judd, what I've been saying for weeks, that the Vikings want to find a way to take care of Danielle, to have Danielle in purple in 2023.
Doogs, I did a little insight myself this weekend, and I was told that the agent for Danielle Hunter is playing some serious hardball here, too. He's making negotiations maybe a little more difficult than was anticipated. This is the same agent that represents Byron Murphy Jr., same agent that represents Christian Kirk, who got a huge payday with the Jaguars last year. So he's able to get some paydays, don't get me wrong. But I was told that the agent is also playing some pretty significant hardball and causing a little bit of an impasse here early on.
Well, I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, his name is Zeke. He actually sold his agency in the last 6-ish months. He is now under the Clutch Sports umbrella. So he's got the backing of a big-time agency now. But yeah, you listed some of his clients. He's got more than that. Now, it was a good negotiation on the Byron Murphy Jr. front, back in March. So it's not like there's any sort of bad blood. But think about the deal that Zeke did.
Yeah.
Judd, was it 2019 or 2018?
I think it was 2018 now, but it kept getting redone.
I know, but you go back to the last deal that Danielle did.
It's
the
bad.
agent failed miserably. Let's not beat around the bush. That was a horrible contract. It really was. So, this is me maybe opining more than informing. If you want to put it under the reckless speculation umbrella, fine. But Zeke is trying to save face, right? So Declan, what you just said makes complete sense after he failed his client so badly the last time around.
And I think to Declan's point about what he heard about this being more difficult than it probably should be is, if you guys recall a year or two ago when they adjusted Daniille's contract, and all that was shoving money from the back end up front to pay him immediately. There were a lot of people, rightfully so, who are like, why don't you find a new agent? And Daniille's like, ride or die with Zeke, man. He's my guy. And so, Darren, this provides what you're saying more validity, because I think if he had found a new agent, then it's a straight up negotiation more so. I think this is about pride as well, which makes it more murky and muddy. So it's a very interesting dynamic, but there is no question agreeing to that contract back in, I think you're right, 2018 is one of the better deals that the Vikings have gotten, but it's bit them in the ass because at every turn it was so undervalued. And I mean, my God, they shoved cash up front, but Danielle Hunter now do a payday of $5.5 million. It was never supposed to get to this, clearly. Like, this was never supposed to happen.
I mean, yeah, and we always knew. I mean, Judd, we knew based on the year that Danielle had top 10 and pressuring the quarterback, double-digit sacks, that there was zero chance he was playing this year under his current terms. So we knew going back 5 months that it would come to this point. The Vikings had hoped everything would be wrapped up by here in mid-June, right? That they would find a happy medium. You start to wonder at this point if they can't. And, I mean, there will be a rock-solid trade market. Like, I know for a fact, Judd, the New York Giants would love Danielle Hunter. Andre Patterson thinks the world of him. Now, hey, the Giants have their own financial issues, right? With Saquon Barkley holding out for mandatory minicamp this week. That offense goes as Saquon goes, at least in my mind. Like, best of luck to the Giants without Saquon Barkley. Would he be really willing to sit out the entire 23 season? Who knows on that front? But to me, the Giants have to worry about that before they're, thinking about completing some sort of Danielle Hunter trade. But I imagine there would be a good 5 to 8 to 10 teams in the mix for Danielle Hunter. But, like, how far can the Vikings go? There has to be some sort of price point, right? I mean, there was on Dalvin Tomlinson, if you want to make that comp, that the Vikings were willing to pay Dalvin a certain amount, and he was able to get more from the Cleveland Browns. They just couldn't go beyond this price point that they had set. So I wonder what the price point might be. And if Danielle is not willing to accept that price point, yeah, I think we're going to get to the point of a trade. But I'm telling you, the Vikings, at least right now, my understanding is they have every intention of finding a way to keep Danielle in purple. They do want him here. Brian Flores is uber pumped up about the possibility of coaching Danielle Hunter.
Doogs, do you foresee that Justin Jefferson will most likely be showing up at mandatory minicamp Tuesday, Wednesday? We haven't heard anything if he isn't. Obviously, the practice taking place later this morning on June 13th, but do we anticipate JJ showing up to mandatory minicamp?
Yeah, I mean, when the buzz started to come out, Declan, on Monday, that Danielle Hunter, led by our buddy Tom Pelissero, that Danielle wouldn't be there, I didn't get any inkling that Justin also wouldn't be there. Kevin O'Connell even dropped a hint a couple weeks ago about the possibility of Justin being in town. I'll flat out tell you, I don't know definitively 100%. Yes, he's here, or no, he's not here. I guess I wouldn't be shocked. My understanding is the sides have made decent progress, but Judd, as you have alluded to, it's not an easy negotiation, right? With some of these injury guarantees, the way the Vikings structure their contracts. I had a fascinating chat with Joel Corey, the former agent for John Randall McDaniel, who now does great work for CBSSports.com. He was on the latest Scoop podcast, episode 418, that posted on Sunday. He laid it all out. He's got intimate details of the CBA, of the Vikings workings, how the Vikings have always structured their contracts outside of Kirk Cousins, right? But I told you, Judd, like, we could bet lunch at Park Tavern. I think Justin Jefferson is going to win that battle. His representation is going to win that battle on the injury guarantee, but it's not an easy negotiation. But I guess I wouldn't be shocked if he's there. But again, it's a $50,000. It's actually a $49,000 and change fine, right? So whether he's here or not here, he's getting his work in, whether in Louisiana or in Florida. Like, that's one, he knows this offense. Like, that's one that wouldn't overly bother me. But I guess I wouldn't be shocked just because the two sides want to get a deal done, that they've had solid dialogue, that if he is in Egan today and tomorrow.
I bet he's here, doesn't practice. I bet
There's no reason. Judd, we saw it a couple weeks ago, right? Andrew Booth Jr. tries to make a play on a ball thrown to KJ Osborne in the end zone. Okay, no contact, right? But it's inevitable. These guys are football players, right? Like, what do you mean no contact? It's hard for them to really grasp that, right? So Booth tries to make a play on the ball, makes a little contact with KJ. KJ goes to the ground, catches the ball. KJ lands on the ball, wind knocked out of him. I spoke with KJ after that practice. He said, hey, that's the first time that's happened to me since middle school. He goes, I was legitimately scared for a few seconds. And, he was fine, 5 plays later, 6 plays later. But, it's that sort of situation that there is zero reason for Justin Jefferson to put his body on the line, even if there's not contact, even if they're not in full pads until, the 5th training camp practice, late July, early August. We're not in full pads today or tomorrow. There is zero reason for Jefferson to put his body on the line. So, yes, if he's there, Judd, that would make complete sense.
Mm-hmm.
Doogs, Timberwolves scoops. I saw you caught up with Chris Finch yesterday. I saw you had a loaded episode, too, of NBA nuggets on Towns and whatnot, too, in your latest scoop episode. What can you tell us on the pups?
Yeah, well, on Cat, I mean, that's the popular topic right now, right? I mean, speaking of reckless speculation season, right? I mean, I saw another story yesterday with 6 or 7 different Cat trade scenarios. Some were completely
It's all
crazy.
Mackey. It's all Mackey's fault, Darren.
You mean to tell me Oklahoma City is going to move Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and multiple first-round picks? Are you kidding me? Jalen Williams is a stud. If you can make that deal if you're the Wolves, you make that deal. What was interesting to me was Chris Finch. I forget the exact question, but yeah, I was with Chris Finch at a clinic yesterday in Eagan. So we held court, with him, a few of us did after the clinic. And, we asked him a couple questions about, the camp and all that, being around kids. Then, the topic shifted to the Wolves, right? And so he took, 7, 8, 9 questions. He alluded to these CBA changes and how teams are going to get out in front of these CBA changes, which is code for how can the Wolves afford in a year Cat Supermax, Rudy Gobert making the money he's making, Jaden McDaniels at $20 to $25 million a year on an extension they want to sign him to this summer, plus Anthony Edwards on his rookie max deal, right? The extension off the rookie deal, the max extension, which if he the way that'll go up. Hey, Anthony Edwards absolutely could be 3rd team All NBA next year, right? So I wouldn't dismiss the Anthony Edwards extension. Actually, instead of being 207, ends up being more than that, or whatever the number is. It can jump if he makes All NBA. Anthony Edwards can make All NBA next season. So I found that interesting. But I will also tell you, I've texted with 2 executives with teams that make logical sense that if the Wolves were to shop Cat, that these 2 teams absolutely would minimum inquire. And for what it's worth, these 2 guys that I've known for a really long time, heck, if they didn't want to tell me the truth, they just wouldn't text me back. Both texted me back and said, now this was late last week, but said, we have not had 1 iota of dialogue with the Wolves. Now, in the same breath, I was speaking with Finch about this. He admitted things really pick up right now, really yesterday, 10 days out from the draft, now 9 days out. This is really when, today, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, into the weekend, into early next week, heading into the draft a week from Thursday, this is when trade dialogue truly picks up. But for what it's worth, these 2 teams, these executives from these 2 teams, and I'm telling you, they absolutely minimum would inquire. They would want to know what the price is for Cat. They say they have not had any dialogue with Cat. So my understanding is, based on my conversation with Glenn Taylor a few weeks ago, some other behind-the-scenes conversations, that the Wolves would like to run this thing back. It'll be hard to read.
Should we put Doogs in timeout here for a second?
Put Doogs in timeout there just for a little bit as
try and
he
get it back. The picture was dicey, but the sound was fine for quite some time.
Sound was fine.
I thought we were going to dodge a bullet there, but clearly we're not going to completely. So you bring Doogs back when we can. But I felt like there were some key things being missed as he was talking about what might happen with Cat and the implications of the CBA and salary cap coming up.
Yep, some
for the
juicy
Wolves.
stuff there from Doogs. We'll see if we got him back here. Doogs, we're having a little bit of some internet gremlins. You got us now?
Well, now we got nothing.
Yeah, we might. We'll put a bow. We'll put a bow on this scoop session. It's all good. We got some Vikings and some Wolves in there as well. So we'll put a wrap on this on Minnesota Sports with Mackie and Judd. Wrap with Royce. We'll have another more Danielle Hunter stuff on Purple Daily as well. Until then, we'll be talking at you later today.